Welcome to the Breakfast Club, where industry leaders come together to explore strategies, spark ideas, and turn insight into action. In this session, we're diving into how AI, digital tools, and intentional customer experiences are transforming the way we run youth activity centers. From AI voice assistants that book classes in seconds, to data-driven retention strategies that drive loyalty and fuel revenue, to the emotional science behind every click, call, and connection. This isn't just about managing enrollments. It's about designing unforgettable journeys. We own our growth ambitions because small tweaks create big peaks. Welcome to the Breakfast Club. Let's redefine what's possible together.
Today's topic is about the digital journey. We talked a lot about retention in the last session and the importance that we focus on the customer experience. Today, we're going to talk about what drives retention and some things you can put into action to be more intentional along the journey. We just want you to think about a framework that you can apply. Maybe it's digital, maybe it's one piece of your business, maybe it's a program. It can be applied anywhere. But I think when we talk about the customer experience, it drives rapport, it drives reviews, it drives referrals, it drives revenue, it drives respect, but ultimately it drives retention because everything you feel about a brand stays with you. And sometimes that can change, sometimes for the better and for the worse. But every piece of information or touch point that a customer has with your business elicits an emotion or a response, right? And so we'll talk through what that looks like. I want to talk about sort of like the economies, right? So you've seen changes. Some of us have seen more changes than others in the room, but we now live in an experience economy, right? We're a service economy, but the experience economy is changing rapidly, and AI is going to exponentially change the way business is done, I think, for the better. Experiences are sort of the basis of increasing competition for businesses and organizations. And people of all generations are placing more value on experiences and relationships over things. You can kind of see that with travel. You can kind of see that with, theme parks and Disney. People spend more money on experiences. They are starting to pull back even now with, the threats of tariffs and recession, and people are going to more likely spend their money on experiences. And that's sort of our sweet spot, right? And so we're going to talk about this experience economy from a digital lens today and where I think we're heading and things that you can do to think about it better. And so when we think about, humans make decisions on emotion before justifying it logically. I think that's really important for you to really think about in every aspect of your business. So, I talk about Amazon finding this button to generate $1 billion more revenue. It's all about making the decision frictionless. And so the quicker they can do something, act on emotion, to sign up, to do whatever you want to do. And this is where like FOMO comes in, right? The fear of missing out, the emotion is driving the response. And so crafting these great digital experiences, turning clicks into customers is super important for us. When a customer sees, and we sometimes intentionally do this for summer camps, we will play with the numbers to show that they're going down, even if they're kind of holding steady, because it drives an emotion response from a person to say, I don't want to miss out on this camp. So we register kids faster. Those emotions drive action. And so even if you check out like a grocery store, some of the highest margin items sit right next to the checkout, right? Because those are emotional purchases. They didn't go to the store for a candy bar or a pack of gum or drink. There's an emotional response like, I'm thirsty. It's very convenient. These big brands understand the emotional purchase or the emotional decision, and they design their stores or their experiences or their gyms to attract those types of decisions, right? It's based on emotion. So, I've said this before, I highly, highly recommend you follow what big brands do because they invest a ton of money into research and human behavior analysis. And so we'll talk through a little bit more about crafting those great digital experiences. But when you look at a map of brands, right, there's a lot of intentionality. These brands learn to emotionally attach to you. They want to elicit an emotional response from you. We all have brands on here that we love. Some maybe we can't honestly stand. With some brands, we can easily explain why. Maybe it's great service. Maybe it's got cool design. Maybe it's a product that just works, or how it makes you feel, or you just trust. There's no reason why Starbucks can charge $6 for a coffee and Dunkin' Donuts charges $2.25. There's no reason why people go to Dunkin' versus Starbucks, right? Well, there's a big reason. Starbucks makes you feel a certain way. Their values drive maybe a response, an emotional response in you, that you feel like you're doing something better for the earth, or maybe you feel like you have more money than somebody that drinks Dunkin'. I don't know what it is. Each brand understands like their why, but sometimes it's easy to explain and sometimes it's harder to put into words. These brands just make us feel something different. And that's the power of brand connection. And while we think we're just running a gymnastics or a swim or a ninja gym, our customers have feelings and connections with how our logo makes them feel. They don't buy a Metro South t-shirt or a Beyond Gymnastics hoodie just because they go there. And it's because they have a connection with our brand, with our facility, with our staff, right? So whether it's loyalty or aversion, it usually comes from a personal experience, something that triggered a feeling, a memory, or even a gut reaction to connect with the brand. And so when you think about like Super Bowl commercials, they get a lot of eyes. They cost a lot of money. And the goal of every commercial is not to say, hey, here's our product. It does X, Y, Z. No, all Super Bowl commercials are trying to emotionally elicit you to connect with that brand. It's not pushing the product, right? And so, you know, they have a plan to be able to connect. If you think about Budweiser and the Clydesdales, why would they pick Clydesdales? It's beer, right? How many people in office jobs drink Budweiser? They're not trying to connect with a certain audience. They're trying to elicit emotion, but they know their audience. And so we're going to talk a little bit about like personification and like personas to try to really, appeal and make their customers, their target customers, feel something and why they support that brand. And so brands intentionally architect these emotional connections. And so, we'll talk a little bit about why that is. It's more than just like warm and fuzzy feelings. This for us will drive retention. It drives loyalty and it drives trust. And so that's what we need to do. And it kind of has an impact to your bottom line. We kind of talked about this last time. And so this calculator is sitting on that website that we built. And Lynn kind of brought it up as well. But the truth is growth doesn't come from getting more customers. It does, but it comes really from keeping the current customers. So this chart, as I mentioned, you have access to this, shows the direct link between retention and revenue, right? The longer someone stays connected to your brand, the more value. Really clear. But like measuring that is super important. So if you run a program or if you run a gym, let's take up some made up numbers, right? So if in your program or in your gym has 200 enrollments and you're open for 52 weeks and the average person stays for 12 weeks, that's low. We could talk about that issue if you have that issue. But say they stay for 12 weeks and you charge $25 per class. So that what we do is we multiply the 200 enrollments by the 52 weeks. So you have 10,400 customer weeks. To maintain a level of 200, you need to bring in 867 kids to maintain 200, right? And you heard Lynn last time talk about the cost of bringing in a customer. So that's your total marketing dollars and resource hours, right? Divided by how many kids you bring in. It adds up pretty quickly. And so if you know that you have a retention of 12 weeks, it's going to be expensive to bring in more customers. And that's why you always hear retain your customers. It's much cheaper to keep a customer than gain a new customer. And that's true. And this kind of helps you try to understand that. So you can run this calculation at a program level. You can run it at a whole gym level, but you should really look at this and see in baseline where you're at, and then like figure out how do we continuously make this better? Because, at a program level, team may be at, 140 weeks, but, mom and me may only be at 12 weeks or 20 weeks, right? So at a program level, it makes sense to look at this as well and start to baseline it. So,
Chris, we got a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about the 867, whatever that number is, what does that mean? As 867 new customers?
So if you have a baseline of 200, not all those kids come in at the same time and leave at the same time, right? So what you're saying is in 52 weeks time frame, you could change this to say, your session runs for 12 weeks. You could enter your session in here too. This is why we built it, to be flexible. During that time period, to maintain a level of X amount, yes, over the course of 52 weeks to maintain at a 12-week enrollment, you need to have 867 kids coming into that program. So I think, we're here to focus on digital today, and it's moving at the speed of light. I would say the majority of us, our customers come from a digital referral, from a person, but they are going to go do research on us. They're going to read reviews. The referral from friends is the most powerful, as we know, but they're also going to go look, right? It's funny, humans will challenge a recommendation and like do their own research. But if I tell you this restaurant is horrible, they'll believe it. They won't even go look, right? And so the negative is more powerful than the positive, which seems backwards, but it has been studied and it's scientifically proven. Humans will believe something that's bad versus believing something that is good. And so it's important that, we are buttoned up on all aspects of how a consumer or customer finds us and understands who we are and what we stand for. And so a little tangent there, but AI has dominated the headlines for the past year, like completely dominated. If you don't know what AI is, we're going to talk about it, but it is moving so fast that it's kind of hard to keep up with. Companies are shifting to what can AI do for me first mentality. A year ago, that was not the case. And then companies are asking like, where can I invest? Because it's moving so fast, they don't know where to utilize it. AI right now is not about replacing all humans, but rather like how it's going to augment everything. At some point, AI will replace human jobs. We're not there. But AI needs to be used to make you more efficient. And so this is driving a lot of different trends, a lot of different things that, we may not be paying attention to. But I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they can do their homework. And if they don't know what the answer is, they take a picture and AI tells them the answer. Our teachers told us, you need to learn this math because you'll never have a calculator in your pocket, right? Now these kids can take a picture of it and AI explains exactly how they got to the answer and gives them the answer. It's moving so fast. And the way that we engage digital is changing exponentially. If you look at the monumental shift of search going on right now, search for us has always been like, we need to optimize SEO. We need to like work on our websites. If you are not focused on voice search right now, you need to incorporate that into your strategy, because I see it with my son. He doesn't type anything on his phone. He presses the button and asks the question to Siri on whatever he wants to do or where he wants to go or what something is or what an answer is. And that is changing exponentially. So you can see in the chart, like 10 years and under, everything is voice. You can even see it on the remote controls now, like play me this movie. So you see that probably in I'd say the older age brackets are using like the voice to text or voice to command and like remotes in some of the Siri, some Alexa as well. But this is shifting exponentially. And so if you don't have a voice search strategy, you need to implement it immediately. And you need to go to Siri after this call. And when you get home, because what you're going to want to do is say, hey, Siri, where is the closest gymnastics gym? And, how does what's the competition? What's the best gym that I should go to? Prompt Siri and Alexa a lot of different questions from different locations to see what she says. Because if you say, show me a gymnastics gym near me, it's going to come up with a ranking order. And that ranking order, there's algorithms behind. And some of it is based on reviews. Some of it is based on, do you even have a listing on Apple? Do you even have a listing on Google Bing? Do you have a listing on different search engines? And so I advise you to look at how search is changing across just voice. I'm not even talking about AI yet, because AI will give you full analysis of your business, the strengths, the weaknesses, what customers say. You can prompt AI to ask these questions. And I see that as the next phase of just asking AI, because it's going to take all the data that it can find about your business and compress it down into a quick summary. And so it's important, even more important for reviews and responses and listings going forward, because AI is going to synthesize that back to the customer. All right. Those of you thinking about AI and those of you who use it can only see this coming, right? AI is going to first phase augment where problems are, right? The adoption, at least, right? The adoption is going to be, hey, I can't do XYZ. How can this help me? And so we will first, as a first phase of using AI, look at deficiencies, areas of deficiency, maybe areas where we have trouble finding staff. Chad mentioned SOPs, right? No one wants to write SOPs. No one wants to figure out how to make them simpler, but AI does a really good job of it. And, it needs the input. It needs the input from humans that understand the business and how you operate, but it does a really good job of articulating the way you want and the refinements that you give it. And so that's one way. But those of you who train competitive gymnastics can only see where AI is going, right? We have high-speed cameras, right? We've had high-speed cameras for a long time. If you think about a deficiency that we have in the state and in the country is finding qualified judges and enough of them to work events. They're testing out since 2013 AI with high-speed cameras judging gymnastics. They've done it in college. And so I'm not sure that they've perfected that yet, but it is coming. And so you think about deficiencies or you think about like accuracy, you can see it coming in the Olympics too. You can see it at like the finish line of races. Accuracy is going to be driven by technology more and more. It's going to continuously evolve. And so I think the next thing you're going to see, which really changes the dynamic of gymnastics as a sport, is the judging component of it and the analysis training, right? So if you're in the gym and you have higher speed cameras, the analysis of playing back slow-mo, you can do it on your iPad today. You record in 120 frames per second and you can really slow down and analyze movements of, gymnastics moves to help coach and make it better. That's all going to get better and better and better. But AI could potentially be the judges in the future. So staffing continues to be a problem for us, right? As we think about where AI could augment that, in our business and, if multiple people call out, at least in our business, our front desk staff has to step away from the desk to help coach, right? That's our number one priority. At that point, the customer experience becomes an issue, right? Phones are not being picked up, emails are not being returned, align forms at the desk for questions about camps and the days that they missed to make up, right? And so the customer experience starts to go down. But if we can augment that, we're going to be better off. And so if you think about front desk staff, I see this completely being transformed from emails to, phone calls. I don't see us having to staff as much going forward. I think somebody should always be at the front desk when you walk in, just part of the customer experience. But if you have three, you're not going to need three going forward. I think this augmentation is going to be big. And so I haven't tested this model that I just built, but I'm going to talk to an assistant. And you guys just saw me rebuild this thing because it didn't save last night. So I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't been able to tweak it, but I'm going to press the talk to assistant like a phone call. And let me know if you can't hear this.
Thank you for calling Pioneer. Sir, this is Justin, your scheduling assistant. How may I?
Yeah, my son, Julian, missed a class last week.
No worries. We can definitely help you. Class for Julian. Could you please provide me with your last name, the phone number associated with your account? That way I can look up his information and find the best available option for a makeup class.
Yeah, it's McKinnon, and the number is 413-555-5555.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon. Let me check your schedule for Julian's class. Just a second. For his age group, we have a makeup class slot available on Thursday at 4 p.m. or Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Do either of those times work for you?
Saturday would be great.
Schedule Julian for a makeup class on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Please arrive about 10 minutes early, again, and get there. You can wear comfortable athletic clothes, shorts and a t-shirt or similar, and bare feet in the gym. Does that all work for you?
Yeah, and I also have a question about billing.
Sure. With scheduling, our billing team would be happy to any payment questions. You can reach them directly by calling the gym at the same number, or I can have someone follow up. Would you like me to pass along your request?
Yes, please pass along the request.
Absolutely. I'll make sure our billing team reaches out to you soon. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
No, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for choosing Pioneer Athletic Center. Have a great day, and we'll see Julianne on Saturday at 10.
Thank you. So I didn't do much. You saw me and I did it live, so you could see what I did. I found the service last night and I went to ChatGPT. I copied out their demo script and I asked ChatGPT to take it. It was for a wellness center, like medical appointments. I asked ChatGPT to quickly relate this to my business because my language model understands my business from my prompts and my asks. And I said, please change this to, Pioneer Athletic Center. And so I could give the AI a name, which I renamed to Justin for Beyond Gymnastics today. But I didn't do much. I didn't train that model. That understood the assignment. Now, there's some catching up to do with makeups and connecting it to our class management systems. But if that didn't give you a glimpse of what is going on with AI right now, it's moving at a speed that I don't think even the internet moved at. It just is completely changing week to week. If you've used ChatGPT to create graphics in the past, you know that text hasn't rendered very well. Well, they just came out with an update, and I would say it's about 10 years, or I'd say it's moved in about for like a 10-year span in 2 months. It completely renders text now, and it spells it exactly. And depending on how you prompt it, it will output exactly what you need. And so I'm here to tell you that AI is here to augment your business. And if you have kids over the age of 7 and they are not learning how to prompt AI, I highly suggest you start to spend some time with them and learn it, because it is going to be the future of how businesses are run. So how can I use AI, right? Like you're thinking SOPs, like now I got that call assistant, maybe someday it'll, judge our gymnastics meets. But for any of you that have signed up for club.gymbrand.com, that site was completely built by AI. It is not AI. It is built by AI. So it is a developer to build that site. And with time, I'm happy to share sort of what else I've been building, because it's going to completely change the way our business interacts with customers. It's going to be the software is going to be built exactly the way we do business, which is unheard of unless you're a multi-billion-dollar company. So can you build a site? You can optimize your user experience. You can build targeted emails. You can work on your brand identity. You can write content like SOPs, like Chad mentioned. You can create your marketing copy. He says he uses it for like social posts, right? Like give me 30 different posts across these examples or programs. And with this information, like you can prompt AI to build anything that you need. And so you have the data in your business. You have the data today. You have the customers, where they live. You have how many children. You have what school they attend, most likely. And if not, you can look that up really quick by their address. You have what classes they take. You have how long they've been enrolled. You have their skill level, maybe. You know when their birthday is. You know how or who referred them, most likely from your intake forms. And so we'll talk a little bit about like how you use this data. But if you're not connecting like how AI can start to use some of this, let's talk through next on like the customer journey, because this is where you can start to look at how you're doing. And I think this is important. And you can run this at your business level. You can run this at a program level, but you need to understand like what the customer journey is by whatever way you want to measure it. So this is basically the experience that your customer goes through. The discovery, is it a referral? Was it research, the website? Did they call? Did they email? Did they come to an event? What is the experience that they experienced there? Maybe they came to an open gym or a night out, right? Throughout this journey, it needs to be thoughtful. It needs to be refined. But most of all, it needs to be reviewed by your staff on a regular basis. I bet my life, the majority of this is set and forget. And some of what we do too is set and forget, and we don't look at it. If I were to ask any of you how the billing emails look, what a customer gets every month from the class management software that you have, how many of you could tell me, I wish it did X, Y, Z, or I wish it had this, or it's kind of confusing? I would guess some of you know, and some of you are like, yeah, I've never seen that my whole life. Never registered as a customer. I've never seen it. If I were asking you the same question about the customer portal, how easy is it to do a makeup? How easy is it to do X, Y, Z? What questions do we get at the front desk that the portal doesn't answer? Like if the customer experience is based on emotions, Everything they get, every email they have, every login that they get go into a portal, every time they come to the desk elicits an emotion. And so across all of these touch points, discovery, during the enrollment, when they're enrolling, what's the online registration? Does it have more information on there that you don't actually need? Is it smooth? Do you have a kiosk registration at your front desk? Have we called them? Is that experience what you want it to be? Is it scripted? Is it consistent? If somebody waitlists, what is that experience? Do they go on the wait list and never hear from you again? Or is there a periodic email that says, hey, you're on the wait list, you're number 5? I can tell you for us, we don't manage that very well. You go on the wait list until you get contacted. That's not a great customer experience. I know it, but again, it comes down to resource and time and prioritization. So I understand all of this. However, I also know that's a touch point at some point I need to prioritize. And so, what about once they register? What's the orientation? Do they have a welcome email? Do they have a video? Do they have a picture of their instructor? Do they have expectations like what to wear? Is it really clear, or is it buried just in a huge long email? Is there a series of leading up to the day? Is there a text saying, hey, we can't see you for your first class today, as a reminder, right? So all of these touch points need to be measured. I think the point of this is identification. What are those touch points every customer has? And 2, how can we increase the emotion or get a better emotion from a customer? So what I suggest you do is go through the customer journeys, go through this, document out sort of where you see your touch points. So discovery for us is one, enrollment is another. The orientation for us is before they even step in the door for their class. The welcome is a whole nother piece. So that's them first walking in the door for that class. They could come 100 times to a birthday party, but what is the difference in the experience for when they come in? And then what is the initial experience? That's different than the welcome, right? The initial experience is them watching their kid, right? And so that could be their first class. And then how do we sort of drag on the community? How do we let them know of events? How do we know that, let them know who their instructors are? Or if an instructor has changed, how do they know that? Some kids can deal with an instructor change for the day. Some kids have meltdowns. So how do you communicate that? Based on all of those key phases of the customer journey, where do you excel? Are you average? Are you poor? You can self-rate. I'd say we kind of bob and weave. This is a made up slide. It's not actual data that I think where we are at. But question for you, how many of you host summer camps? Because this could be a completely different customer journey. They could be enrolled in classes, but summer camps are something else, right? Most of you, I assume, do summer camps or gym jams or whatever you call them. It's great margin revenue. But how many of you open registration just for current customers? When we talk about loyalty, when we talk about prioritization, we talk about, that journey, that feeling, that emotion, that's one way that you can make them feel a part of the gym. How many of you in December or January send an email to all the families that attended the summer camp previously? I assume not many. What if you were to send an email with your EIN and a message stating all summer camp stuff is a tax write-off, and we want you to make sure not to forget that? That's caring, right? Part of your connection, your emotion. You're not asking for money from them. You're actually trying to get money back from them. And so there's things that we can do along this journey that are value add, that are connection, that are digital, that we start to connect with our customers. Now, you're sending that email as a thank you and, hey, you're part of our community, you're part of our family, we want to take care of you, but you're also greasing, hey, it's almost summer camp time again, right? And so I think the important part is the communication, the journey. You're looking at that, right? You're doing two things. You're showing that you care, but you're also communicating with them. And great brands, they know their customers. You heard Lynn talk about her flywheel last time, and she shared her model, not this model that I'm sharing. But great brands start by asking, who do we serve? And every touch point across that customer journey, every message, every interaction with customer service, front desk, whatever, needs to be reverse engineered from the customer's needs, identity, desires, and expectations, right? Impact comes from clarity. So the more clear we are with who our customer is, what their needs are, it becomes more specific. We're able to work on it a little bit better. We understand it. The tighter our focus is on our ideal customer, the stronger the message resonates, the stronger the emotion hits home with them. And so you want to build that loyalty. That loyalty builds retention. Retention drives revenue. We saw the whole model of how many kids we have to bring in just to maintain the level that we want to maintain in either in our gym or in our program. So the proverbial flywheel is supposed to spin, right? And so you need to figure out what are those things that impact this, that make this flywheel spin. And so once that starts spinning, the idea is growth, right? So I think you have to build with intentionality. Big brands do it. We can follow their leads, but we all need to understand our customers, their needs, their wants, their desires. Everyone has different programs and clientele. So it's important that you understand who your customers are. And you can do this through conversations. You can do it through surveys. You can do it through just looking at data. Some of you may already do this for competitive teams. Like as an intake for competitive teams, you have the athlete write 3 goals and you have the parent write 3 goals, right? You can start to parse parents out by what their goals are versus what the athlete's goals are. You can kind of do that with every customer through intake or surveys. And so then you can start to group them. And so what I like to do, I made these up. These aren't exactly what we do, but you can relate to this. You have the competitive parent, right? Now, I'm just going to make this up, but if you're at Beyond Gymnastics, they have an elite program. We do not. Elite program may attract more competitive parents, right? It most likely does. But, their kids' ages could be 3 to 12, right? You could see it in like a mom and me. The parents like super competitive. My kids, yeah, they're only 3, but they should be with 5-year-olds because they're just born to do gymnastics, whatever it is. And then maybe you have parents that are super competitive that are just pushing for team and they want to see them go to college and compete and potentially have a path to Olympics. You can kind of segment out, like if you think about parents in your programs, like who falls in with the competitive parent. And so some of us focus, attract the recreational enthusiast. It's just the mom that wants their kid to have fun and learn and be, participating in fitness. Each one of these parents can have traits. They can have like things that they're at your business for. And so like, how do we attract them? From a digital perspective, we all do this in different ways. And this is your messaging on your website. So if you are attracting the competitive parents to your program a lot, and that's not who you want because you run a rec gym only, your messaging is probably off. And so if you're like, how do I keep getting all these competitive parents? You need to go back to all the touch points, your website, your messaging, your ads. Like if you're appealing to a competitive parent and you don't have the programs to back it up, there's something off. And so it's important that you try to understand and segment your parents because their wants, their needs and their desires are different. And so you'll never build the business that you want if you're attracting the wrong audience. So look, you could probably quickly like identify like maybe some of your personas, but it's a good exercise to think through. The neurospicy is like parents with children with physical or developmental disabilities. I could tell you our main gym is not conducive to a child on the spectrum, because it is so overstimulating. We're trying to look at like what Chad did with like a smaller area of another part of the gym. So the sensitivity, isn't so big and that we can be more supportive, right? And, sensitive to the needs. So, again, like if that parent comes in, we may not have a program to fulfill their needs. And so it's important to understand, like, as people are asking questions, to try to look at like what segment they fall in, because that could be your next growth opportunity to fill a need. I think CDC just came out and said 1 in 32 kids are neurodivergent, right? That to us should ring a bell that we should have specific programs designed for these kids, like immediately. And so you can gain all this insight digitally through surveys, through people searching on your website. What keywords are they using? You can do keyword research, but it's important to keep on point with who your customers are. And if you over-index on one, maybe looking at correcting your messaging on your website or any of your digital properties or, inside the gym. I'll bring this one home for you because some of you are like, what the hell are you talking about? So I work on some big brands. Yankee Candle is one of them. And so Yankee Candle, within the database of millions of customers that sign up, each customer is in a segment. And so these segments are based on different things. If you are a Fragrance Family Loyalty member, which means you signed up for rewards and the loyalty program, you get cash back or like special deals, you are segmented into a different persona, right? Now within Fragrance Family, if you spend X amount of dollars, you could be in a different persona. If you have shopped in store, because we do have physical stores, you could be in a different persona. And so what we do is we take behaviors based on if you're on our website and what you do, what you look at, we can target those personas with what we think drives behaviors. And there's a lot of tests that go on through email on which emails you click on, what ad campaigns you react to, what you do on site, what you bought in store, and data is augmented and pulled together to come up with a conversion plan. So our only goal is if you bought 2 candles last month is to get you to buy 2 more this month or 6 more. And so all this data, this input, these personas come together and plans are developed to try to market specifically to you. If you come to the website and you only spend 1 minute and you click on 3 products and you don't add them to cart, we may augment your persona. And if you keep doing that and then you finally convert, we're going to try to figure out, it's not like a human is looking at you specifically, through data augmentation to try to figure out how to convert you. And our gyms are no different. We don't have that level of data or data scientists to try to figure that out. But I'm telling you, big brands do. And what we can do is look at the things that we have. So if you have an email newsletter today and you just blast out all the news, you're missing an opportunity to talk to that competitive parent or that recreational enthusiast. Or maybe it's a layer down just by data that you have. Maybe you started a new Mom and Me program and you have 1 to 3-year-olds and you have a new space and your database is sitting full of kids that are 1 to 3, but they're inactive. That can be a segment for you, right? It doesn't have to be the competitive parent. It doesn't have to be the recreational enthusiast. The data could be, you have parents that have kids enrolled, but they also have a 1 to 3-year-old at home and they're inactive. That should be a messaging to say, maybe it's the first email is why it's important to start gymnastics for 1 to 3-year-olds. The second is we have new programs and new spaces and here's a success story. And the third one, if you're still inactive, is a deal. Hey, we see that you have, and then you could segment your database to say you already have a kid enrolled. Hey, did you know we have a sibling discount, right? And you can build these things out. But you have data, you have birthdays. If you host birthday parties, 45 days out, if you are not sending an email to say, hey, host your party, you are missing an opportunity. That is the average time when a parent books a party at our facility. It is 40 to 45 days out. Are there people that book months out? Yes, but the vast majority are booking 40 to 45 days. So if you don't think we're sending a reminder at that, we would be missing a big part of birthday parties. We saw, when we implemented that 3 years ago, we saw a 45% increase in our birthday parties because we were top of mind. And so we made it easy to say, directly link to the birthday parties. We also sent them a text, and on their birthday, we also send a text saying happy birthday to the parent or the child. But there's things digitally that you can start to segment and look at your customers differently. And this takes time. It takes priority. AI can help you with this. And AI can help create these messages for these specific segments. But I suggest spray and pray is no longer going to get you where you need. We need to drive that experience. We are now in the experience economy and parents want the information they need when they want it or need it, right? Maybe they don't know they want it. So I think digitally, we have the data. We can do a lot of things. We just need to focus on it. So I know we're at time. I'll share this deck with you guys, but getting big brands architect these experiences, right? They define their goals. They create these personas or these segments. They identify the key stages of the purchase cycle or the membership or whatever it is. They collect all this data. They need to make sure that it's data driven. They map all the stages out and they visualize and analyze. So if this is a marketing campaign for you, if it is a new program launch, if it is a new pro shop you're launching, whatever you do, the framework to architect this, follow this sort of high level, like what is the goal that we're trying to achieve? Who are we targeting? What are their desires, their wants, their needs? And sometimes they don't know they need it until they see it, right? And then map out these experiences because every touch point is impactful. Every touch point elicits emotion. You can think about that billing email that comes through confusing, that elicits not a great emotion, right? And so I just challenge you to look at every aspect of your business and how data and how AI can help drive forward.
This is the Breakfast Club, helping you own your growth, one morning at a time.